Hello all, my name is Yossi and today I'd like to discuss the claim that Isaiah 53 has somehow been hidden, forbidden, or banned by the rabbis. This lesson is dedicated to the memories of my parents, my father and teacher Avram Shmuel ben Simcha Bunim, and my mother and teacher Chana bat Shimon. There are videos circulating on YouTube by groups like One for Israel Ministries and the Yeshua Project that make the claim and attempt to demonstrate that Isaiah chapter 53 has somehow been declared forbidden to read by the rabbis. The premise behind these videos is that Isaiah 53 is such an obvious reference to Jesus that the rabbis had to declare it a no-go zone so that Jews wouldn't convert to Christianity en masse. Many have written how good lies have an element of truth to them. Perhaps the most famous is Mark Twain, who declared that there are three types of lies: lies, damn lies, and statistics. In his book Dmuyot B'Tanach L'Oram Shel Chazal, Rabbi A.M. Goten discusses how the study of the prophets and writings, what we call Nach, has largely been abandoned. And I can relate from personal experience that many very religious Jews have very limited knowledge of Nach. And indeed, the study of Nach in some ultra-religious circles has all but been relegated to women. Fact: many yeshivot limit the study of Nach, the prophets and the writings. Now, I'm unable to put an exact date on when this phenomenon began, but it's been the case since some time in the 19th century. This is that element of truth in the lie that the rabbis forbade the study of this or indeed any other chapter in the Tanakh, because somehow it's some kind of obvious reference, it has some Christological meaning. What actually happened is this. Many yeshivot, schools of Torah learning in the Ashkenazic world, that's the world of European Jewry, geared their curriculums more towards Talmudic study. The true reason for this shift in the advent of biblical criticism, which was seen by European rabbis of the time as a legitimate threat. And indeed, there was no such shift in the Sephardic and Yemenite communities. In addition, were this chapter to have been hidden because the rabbis were afraid that the Jews would convert to Christianity en masse, the shift in learning would have occurred nearly 2 millennia earlier. The rabbis would certainly not have waited until the 19th century. Fact: Isaiah 53 is not part of the Haftorah cycle. This is another claim, by who else but the rabbis refused to include Isaiah 53 in the weekly Haftorah cycle. Every week for at least the last 2,000 years after the Torah portion, the 5 books of Moses, is read, a portion of the prophets is read as well in the synagogue. This portion of the prophets always has some theme in common with the weekly Torah reading. As proof of some sinister rabbinical intent, Christians state the fact that Isaiah's chapter 51, 52, 54, and 55 are all or in part of this cycle. That's that element of truth to the lie. The truth is that the Haftorah cycle was, by all opinions, implemented before Jesus was born, and indeed Luke and Acts indicate that reading from the prophets was a common element in the Shabbat, that's the Sabbath services, before the destruction of the Second Temple in the year 70 CE. The Purloined Letter is a well-known short story by Edgar Allan Poe. In it, a letter containing embarrassing information is stolen by an unscrupulous politician. The Paris police chief, well known for his thoroughness and investigative prowess, is unable to locate the letter, which is known to be in the politician's possession. The chief has gone over the politician's residence with a fine-tooth comb, even to the extent of using a microscope to examine furniture for hollowed-out compartments whence the Purloined Letter might be hidden. In the end, though, Poe's protagonist is able to locate the letter for the police chief. It had been torn and dirtied and kept in plain view as the best means of hiding it. Outside of destroying all copies of a given book, there are basically 2 ways of hiding a biblical chapter. One is to stop reading it, and the other is to manipulate it. Indeed, If anyone has hidden Isaiah 53, it is those Christian theologians who identified Isaiah 53 as a proof text. As we will see in my future videos, this chapter has been ripped out of context, key words have been mistranslated, and esoteric meanings have been given to verses where no such meanings are evident in the text's simple meaning. In other words, the Christians who turned Isaiah 53 into a proof text used the same method as Poe's unscrupulous politician in the Purloined Letter. They tore it, they dirtied it, and then placed it in plain view in order to trick innocent believers into thinking that Isaiah 53 is about Jesus. Thank you, Kol Tuv, and God bless.